All right, welcome back to another episode of Lead Stronger Longer. This is the podcast that empowers you to purposefully lead your life personally and professionally. Today, I have a super fun guest. I am so excited to have her with me today. I met her at an event that really changed my life. It was this year. And what I observed with this powerhouse leader is someone who is willing to take action and do the work. And it speaks for her life. She is a doctor. She has her own chiropractic practice in partnership with her mother. She owns the building. She then went on to start, by the way, she has two beautiful children. So she's a mom. They're getting ready to go to college. So there's all that. And she has created over the last few years, it's actually 3 years now, she created something that has exploded and now is going across the country and probably will be global within the next 12 months. It is a social connection where people are coming back together in person. Don't we need more of that? Yes. So she created this. It is the Social Oak. She'll tell us a little bit about that. But she is also now mentoring others because she is so exceptional at what she does. And as a leader and someone in her field, really able to take consistent strategic action that gets profound results. I cannot wait to share Ronda Vaughn with you. Everyone, welcome Ronda Vaughn. I'm so excited you are here. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Quite the introduction.
Yeah. From my heart, I am so thrilled to know you. And I just watch you and kind of just observe what you're doing and how you're doing it. I'm in awe. We always like to start with a favorite quote or mantra here. So is there something that's just like a leading mantra you live by?
So I would say originally when you asked me that, the first thing that came to my head was actually in my chiropractic life. And I've always said it, it's not how you feel, it's how you heal. And that's something that I've always lived by in my chiropractic life. But I think in today's conversation, kind of where we're leading more is what has been going through my head recently is if it doesn't make you uncomfortable, it's not going to create change. Is that bad? Because that's really what I'm doing. That's really what's in my head lately all the time.
Wow. Okay. So say that one more time.
If it doesn't make you uncomfortable, it's not going to create change.
Okay. Interesting. Now, uncomfortable can be a lot of different things. So let's unpack that just a tiny bit and tell me how you've applied that with your life, within your life, either personally or professionally.
So I think in both. Obviously, you know my story. I've had a lot of change in the last year. I'm recently divorced. That made me uncomfortable. And my ex-husband's a great human being, but I'm in a better place being on my own right now, but it is also uncomfortable. Um, Personally, and then professionally, I think the same thing. I coach a lot of business owners, and there's so many things that I suggest, and I'm not going to make you do anything you don't want to do, but they're so uncomfortable and it's stopping them from making changes because they're uncomfortable to take the action.
Okay. So that makes so much sense. And I want to just talk a little bit about because with the healing quote, because I love that. You know me as a healer. So I want to know, go back to that for a moment and help us unpack so that we can see as we lead ourselves personally and professionally from a place of how do we navigate when something is uncomfortable? How is that something that we need to break through? Or is it a warning sign? Do you know what I mean? Where there's intuition and it's like,
Right.
yeah. So
So I'm going to say both. I think obviously you have to follow your intuition and your gut and what your body is telling you. But if you're not physically in danger, I think that you can push your limits a little bit farther, right? So I'm not saying like you should go skydiving because I would never. That would make me extremely uncomfortable, but I'm never jumping out of anything that works. But I'm going to go in the sense of business. Um, so many people are terrified to go live, go on a podcast with you, put their face out there, put their voice out there and that makes them uncomfortable,
yeah, that's a
right?
huge distinction. Huge. You're 100% right. And I think to really understand that, it's good to have someone's eyes like yours to be able to go like, yeah, you're okay. This isn't jumping out of a plane that's
Yeah.
working. This is something that's effective, and let's go ahead and handle whatever you're butting up against to see if that might be uncovering some of the things that we need to heal or break through so that you can go ahead and lead at a higher level. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay. So let's talk about what's led you now to your specialization. And you've got these two pieces. I definitely want to talk about the social oak and how that's just exploded and how that really, I mean, that's a specialization. That's tremendous what you've created there. And then really what you're doing with regards to empowering as a business coach, right? Correct.
Right.
It's really just focused now. Tell us how that came about. What's your story there?
So, well, the social oak came about with my coach telling me to have this event every month and invite people to it. If you what you don't know about me, and I don't know, this is it's not a secret, you have to dig really far back. I used to run a dog rescue. I don't know if I've ever told you that. And when I got the dog rescue, it was a smaller dog rescue, and I grew it, to one of it was, like, voted 4th largest, best boxer rescue in the country. Now, I say I because I was the leader. Clearly, there was a whole team of people and a group of people, but what I found was the reason we worked so well is I created a community. So, I built this nonprofit with a community, then I go in to get coached for myself for my business, and they tell me to build a community, and not until I built it did I realize that's really what I've always done, is bring people together because I'll always tell you I'm a we person, not a me person. I don't I don't necessarily I wanna be on stages, but I don't necessarily need to be front and center all the time. I like to be surrounded by the people that I'm with and promote everybody. So, community has always been huge for me. So, I started Social Oak. It was based on my ideal client, and it grew. It started in my office with 30 women, and last month's event, we had 170 women.
That's
So,
amazing.
yeah, just a community, and it's a way that I can talk about personal and professional. It fills my bucket personally because I do love being around people, and I love that I've created this safe space for women and to meet other women and to hang out and have something to do. But it also fills me professionally because it does end up driving business to my practice and created another business in coaching that I never expected to do.
That's so cool. And in terms of that bringing about something around community connection, oftentimes, awesome, by the way, on the dog rescue. I had was part of Actors and Others for Animals in LA for a long time, and it's near and dear to my heart. So thank you for all that work. One of the things that comes up when we're creating, and all of a sudden there's things that happen. This didn't happen by magic, what you created, clearly. I love this that you're it's we, not me. That's a different paradigm for some leaders who are more right dictator. But there's this, if you share in that we, not me. And I'm not great at that. So I'm going to take that wisdom from you more so that I'm just siloed, right? I'm like, I got to get done myself. I've got to get all this done. So that concept of you collaborating with a team, I think is really insightful for others who don't use that, myself included, right? That aren't like, okay, what can we do together? We can do something bigger together. That's really beautiful. So, if we were to go into kind of your early crucial mistake that might have happened along your journey, oftentimes our major pitfalls are a key to our growth, right? So, our listeners really get an opportunity to hear from someone of your experience and expertise to not only understand a period of struggle maybe you've had, but what you learned from it. What might you share with us there?
Oh, and Social Oak. Wow, if you had talked to me last week, we had what I thought was the worst event ever. Um, that's me being hard on myself. But I think I don't know because I don't take them as struggles. I really just took them as lessons. There were so many things that I can't tell you that there was one necessarily downfall. Um, Other than not starting earlier. Uh, I should have done this a long time ago. I don't know what I was afraid of then, right? But I think that every event that we do, every thing that we do, I think, okay, I'll tell you this, trying to fit the wrong people in the place. I think, watching that, and I'm gonna go for the other people that I've coached because my groups have been pretty successful as a whole. Like, we haven't necessarily had the wrong people, but, it was not the right time for them necessarily. Like, we had a great member in my very first social oak, and it just wasn't the right time for her, and we loved her and she loved us, and so we kept trying to make it work, I think, where it just wasn't right for her. If she walked into my office today and said, "I want back in," immediately she'd be in. There'd be no hesitation, but just trying to make the wrong people, wrong decisions at the wrong time.
Yeah, that's a really important concept. So just unpacking that a tiny bit more, and let's look at how it can go with regards to leader, because that's definitely also like the wrong employee or team member trying to fit them in. It's like the the shoe doesn't always fit, so we're always forcing that, and we don't want to shoehorn in a team member or a colleague or whatever. And so, what did you notice when you did see that happening? And was there an early warning sign, or you just were like, nope, that's it, and you're able to pinpoint that because you have a specific skill? What would that skill be if you do? You know what I mean?
I don't think there was a specific sign. I think that, for me with my social oak, the women that helped me run it, um, my original, even the second one that we had was good too, but they were new and learning. But my original group, I'm not gonna say we're flawless because last week's event was a disaster in my opinion. But we are like a well-oiled machine with events and getting things done. And we just work so well together, and it's very easy to communicate with the 5 of us, where I think if you try to put that, like, square, the circle peg and the square hole, I think you feel that friction, and again, there was nothing ugly when I say friction, but that it just didn't seem easy.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And it should
Yeah.
be easy, shouldn't it? It should be more flow and easy. You kind of know when that's going. And then, and okay, so there's two things that I wanted to ask you about with regards to, first of all, you thought it was a disaster, but folks, she had a bar crawl with 150 plus people. So
That wasn't the
uh,
disaster.
I,
That
I
wasn't the
I would
disaster.
say that's how could that not be like that? I can't even imagine what that would be like. But it's interesting. I mean, that you could pull something like that off, right?
So 2 days before that, we had 65 women signed up for speed networking.
Mm.
I had 2 events in 1 week. I actually had 3. I
Oh,
had my C3 meeting, I had a speed
what?
networking for business owners in Social Oak, and then we had our regular Social Oak event with 170 women at the bar crawl. But the speed networking, what I'll tell you where it went wrong is the purpose was to meet everybody, but the whole round robin algorithm is where we screwed up because we went from outside to inside. It was a disaster. And so I felt like I let people down because the goal was to meet every person there, and it didn't happen. One, we went over on time. There's just a couple little things, but that was my first time doing the event. I've never been to a speed networking. I've never been to a speed dating. Um, I just felt like I dropped the ball for them. The feedback was incredible and everybody loved it. Even the people who I thought were getting frustrated with me at the event gave really good feedback to other girls at the event. So I guess it wasn't that bad.
Yeah, so actually, let's take that as an example, if you don't mind, and look at something like that where absolutely in my head, I know I would be beating myself up and oh, da, da, da. And here you're talking about this in calm, and thank you for sharing this live on our podcast here. But as a leader and seeing something like this happen, it's your very first time doing it. It's a pretty major event. You want to see this grow. It's needed and wanted. What can you unpack that now you know as a result of doing that? What lesson did you learn, and what will you do differently?
So that it was honestly the algorithm of making sure everybody saw everybody. Um, However, what I need to remember for me, and this is more on a personal, and I think in anybody in a leadership role or in a business role, is that give yourself a little grace. That's really what I took from that, and how you said talking about it calmly, I was very upset about it for a couple of days. Um, and I think giving yourself a little bit of grace, and again, I made myself uncomfortable. I did an event that I didn't really know how to do. That's an uncomfortable thing for me. I'm pushing the envelope on what myself and the girls in our group can do. So I made myself uncomfortable. I got it done. Most of the people that I've heard back from liked it. Maybe if they didn't, they're not willing to tell me. And if you're watching this and you want to tell me, please tell me. I need negative feedback too. But um I just need to you need to give yourself a little bit of grace and realize when you're putting yourself out there, it's okay to learn from your lessons.
Yeah, I think that is super important. In fact, that's probably your advice for leaders who need to lead stronger, longer. But I love also asking about what are your personal high performance habits? Because habits are definitely what make or break us as leaders. So what would you suggest or what advice can you offer for whether it's an up and coming leader or someone who is like you, innovating and a visionary and is that team player, but also a leader because you like to get stuff done, right? And that I think that's what distinguishes leaders from those who are just like, yeah, that's a good idea, but this, right? You get stuff done. And that's definitely a factor that I noticed with regards to you and why you've just like skyrocketed, right? With this power behind you. So I would love to know what advice you would offer up on that.
Two things, done is better than perfect. I'm a big believer in that. You and I have already talked about that, right? That analysis paralysis and not doing it. You're never going to know how to make it better if you didn't try it once, right? So I think that's a huge thing. That's something that I'm not afraid to do. That I am in my head, that event was going to be perfect. I had it all planned out. It was mapped out. We made all the gifts and the swag and the stuff that they got to take, and it was going to be an amazing event. Well, now I know what to do different, and I could do it again. I kept joking at the end when I thanked everybody for coming. I remember looking at everybody and saying, "Okay, you guys, so the next time when we never do this again, it'll be much better." But I think I'll do it again, just so I know I can do it better. The other thing I think habit-wise is I think where people start to, like a weak link in most new leaders' chains as they're beginning, become very familiar with your calendar now. I think, Dave Meltzer says it all the time to be a student of your calendar, because if you can't figure that out now, you're going to have a really hard time figuring it out when your calendar's busy.
So what does that mean? What does that look like actually?
So looking at your calendar daily, there's a lot to unpack in the student of the calendar, and that's a Dave Meltzer thing. He's phenomenal at it. But looking at your calendar, really knowing where your day is, what's going to happen, where even I have my list of like this meeting was in there, and then I had a meeting before this and a meeting after that. But I'll give you a prime example. I have tasks at the top of my day. So in my tasks, there are things that can be done quickly. So my last meeting, he sent me a text and said I'll be 10 to 15 minutes late. I immediately open my calendar. I go to the task. What can I get done in those 10 to 15 minutes that I now have? How can I fill my white space and make it still mean something, I guess? How can I utilize it to the best of my advantage? I think when you start to do all the things, if you're going to do all the things or try to do all the things, if you don't know how to manage your calendar, everything's going to crumble.
So when are you actually putting those tasks on there? Are you doing that daily, weekly?
Yes. I think, I do put the tasks I try to have my 3 tasks that I have to get done throughout the day every morning. I look at that and probably even the night before I go to bed. But as they come up is when I'm gonna put them in there. It could be an email that I see of a yearly bill because I know my credit card changed. So it could be something as simple as that. That was actually one of the things I did in my 10 minutes was I needed to call to update my credit card so that that bill would be paid because it's a yearly bill. So that came up when I saw the email on Monday, but I didn't do it till today and I knew I had time.
Okay, cool. That makes a lot of sense. And I'm having David on my podcast, I think, in a couple weeks. So I will
Oh,
ask him specifically about that. Yeah.
yeah, he's good.
Awesome. All right. Can you recommend your go-to book or books which have had a really incredible impact on you and how you lead?
Uh, so recently I keep going back to the same 2 and I read a lot of books, but the ones that I keep going back to are Dan Sullivan's books and Who Not How. And I think that's because I'm a we person. I think that I am also smart enough to know that I can't do everything, and that's why I love my team and all the girls I work with in Social Oak, because we all have what we're good at, and there's no reason for me to become the real master when I have Kate. I don't have the time in my calendar to learn how to do it. I don't wanna do it. So, I find somebody who can do it better than me, and that's my Who Not How, right? That's a great book. The other really good book, I think, and maybe this goes back to my done is better than perfect, his other book is The Gap and the Gain. Have you read The Gap and the Gain? Oh, so The Gap and the Gain, the quick version without blowing anything, because it's right on the back of the book, is when we set a goal and say we don't meet the goal, what we forget is how far we've come from where we started. We don't give ourselves grace to see, but you may not have finished here, and that doesn't mean that you can't, but the prime example, my son's soccer team, and this is I actually listened to the book on the way down to a soccer team. 2 years ago, they didn't win 1 game in state cup. Nothing. They didn't win any games, and they got blown out. The next year, they won every game and won state cup. So they get to the regionals where they're playing other states, because now they're playing Iowa, Minnesota, and whatever, and we're from Michigan, and they lost every game, and they were devastated. And I looked at my son, I said, "Where were you last year?" Right? So they didn't get to the end of where they wanted to, but they were so much farther, and I think we're so quick to forget how far we've come. So that book really resonated with me.
Oh, I love that. Oh, I'm excited. I don't know that those. So I'm so excited about those.
Oh, yeah, it's Ben
That's
Hardy
super.
is helped him write it. Here's the funny part, Dan Sullivan, it's his ideas. Ben Hardy wrote it because that's the who, not how. Dan Sullivan says, "I can't write books."
I love that. That's such great advice,
Yeah,
especially for one leaders that need to step up to that next level, but really need to delegate. So super good. Thank you for
yeah.
that. All right. I really appreciate your time. I would love for you to share with our audience contact information, maybe what's the best way, if you have a call to action, but best way for folks to get a hold of you, and then we'll say goodbye.
So you can always go I have the communitycultivator.com as my website, and you can message me there. I'm also readily available on Instagram. It's the_community_cultivator, and you can follow me there for all kinds of other tips and videos and tricks on all the things where I'm helping business leaders do.
I love that. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Make it an amazing week, everyone, and lead yourself first. That's how you lead stronger, longer.